Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. In this week, you are going to learn two selected poems written by Ted Hughes. The Thought Fox and Hawk Roosting, lecture by Faisal Ahmed. Faculty member, Department of English, World University of Bangladesh. Let's begin. Synopsis of the poem. The poem, Thought Fox, is about how inspiration comes to him in the form of a fox into his mind, and he ultimately inscribes it on the paper. Thus, it is a journey from nothing in mind and a blank paper to inspiration on printed paper. The Thought Fox is a poem by Ted Hughes on the process of creativity in the work of a poet. An important lesson on the role of disciplined creativity. Written in 1957, it represents a very personal description of the experience of being an artist producing poetry. Text: The Thought Fox by Ted Hughes. Born in 1930 and died in 1998. I imagine this midnight moment's forest. Something else is alive beside the clock's loneliness, and this blank page where my fingers move. Through the window I see no star, something more near, though deeper within darkness, is entering the loneliness. Cold delicately as the dark snow, a fox's nose touches twig, leaf. Two eyes saw a movement that now and again, now and now and now, sets neat prints into the snow between trees, and warily a lame shadow lacks by stump and in hollow of a body that is bold to come. Across clearings an eye, a widening, deepening greenness, brilliantly, concentratedly coming about its own business, till with a sudden sharp hot stink of fox it enters the dark hole of the head. The window is starless still, the clock ticks, the page is printed. Structure of the poem. The poem, The Thought Fox, consists of 6 stanzas having 4 lines each. That means 4 times 6, 24 lines. The whole poem comprises of. The poem's unrhymed structure allows rhyme to come knocking at the door in the form of I rhyme, snow now, I concentratedly. Half rhyme, fox sticks, and repetition now, with snow merging into the moment of now, which is lingered on a moment with how, which now repeated at the end of 2 successive lines. Major themes of the poem. The Thought Fox provides a metaphorical glimpse into the act of writing, or more precisely, one poet's struggle to write. The poem explicitly mentions the loneliness writing demands and the late nights many writers spend slaving over their work, waiting for inspiration to strike, or obsessively exploring an idea. Poetic devices used in this poem are metaphors and similes. Analysis and criticism of the poem. The Thought Fox has often been acknowledged as one of the most completely realized and artistically satisfying of the poems in Ted Hughes' first collection, The Hawk in the Rain. At the same time, it is one of the most frequently anthologized of all his poems. This poem is his breakthrough, which indicates his turn from metaphysical poetry towards myth-making. This poem is particularly significant for the inclusion of his main themes and stylistic approaches. The poem basically deals with the writing process. At the beginning of the poem, the paper is black, and as we come to the end, the paper is filled. In between, the speaker describes the creative process. The speaker in the poem is alone and sitting at his desk with a blank paper, and the time is midnight. The night is quiet, silent, absolutely dark, and it is starless. The speaker imagines that something else is alive in the forest at midnight. That something else, when it is far, is cold. The poet describes that something as the fox, which metaphorically stands for the thinking. The thinking at the beginning is quite far. Gradually, our mind revisits the subject of our thinking and develops command over that subject. Gradually, the subject becomes the major part of our thinking, and once the subject enters our head, it makes us restless. It always seeks an expression to that situation. The poet metaphorically describes as the hot sting of fox. Once we express, we got the psychological relief and satisfaction. Ted Hughes is popularly known for the use of animal imagery. The title of the poem itself is loaded with animal imagery, where the fox is compared with the thought process of a writer before composing something great, both for the fox to make a move and for the thought to be released. They need silence and solitude. The measured and quick steps of the fox is the process of contemplative writing, and the use of now for the fourth time focuses on the careful steps a fox takes before entering into the head of the poet. This process beautifully connotes the forming of the thought more clear and concrete. The shadow of the fox is becoming more clear and clear, and its advancement through the snowy woods, leaving the footprint beautifully and artistically, states that the dim thought is now clear and it is being printed in white paper. The white snow with the footprint stand for the blank paper printed with the poetic creation of the poet. Now we'll go through the next poem, Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. First of all, synopsis of the summary of the poem. Hawk Roosting is a poem by Ted Hughes, one of the 20th century's most prominent poets. In the poem, taken from Hughes' second collection, Lupercal, a hawk is given the power of speech and thought, allowing the reader to imagine what it's like to inhabit the instincts, attitudes, and behaviors of such a creature. Hawk Roosting is a poem that puts the reader into the imagined mind of a hawk about to rest up for the day. It's a monologue of a raptor given the powers of human thinking, thus personified. Quotable quotes from the poem Hawk Roosting. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I am going to keep things like this. Structure of the poem. The most obvious structural pattern in Hawk Roosting is that there are 4 lines to each stanza, or cluster of lines. The lengths of the lines within each stanza are different, so the number of words in each stanza varies. Nevertheless, there is a visual consistency as the eye skims down the page. Literary devices used in the poem are personification, allusion, and imagery. Major themes. The key theme of this poem is the pride and arrogance of the hawk, which believes itself to be the center of the universe, the product of the whole of creation, and now the director of it. Central theme, violence. The poem suggests is just as much a part of nature as is beauty, and the natural world isn't subject to human notions of morality. The hawk is a killer, and part of the poem's aim is to make clear just how natural this violence is. Another quotable quote from the poem: I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, in action, no falsifying dream between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep, rehearse perfect kills and eat. Personification. The hawk personifies humans and superiority by saying hooked and feet. Allusion. Hughes uses creation to describe God. Imagery. The hawk's kill is known by the allotment of death. Criticism of the poem. Ted Hughes' poem Hawk Roosting, on its literal level of meaning, is an expression of a bird of prey, the hawk, which is sitting on a tree and meditating about its power of destruction, its ability to suppress change, and its conceited arrogance and superiority. But since there is a clear projection of human attributes to the bird, we can easily see that the poem is an implicit satire on a tyrant that the bird represents. More generally, it could be said that the bird is a symbol of the human evils of arrogance, destructiveness, conceited and egotistical attitude, obsession of power and tyranny. In short, the hawk is a symbol of inhumanity. The poem demands readers' active participation. The poet here is not simply talking about the hawk. Hawk speaks with sheer confidence. It is the manifestation of the cruel force of nature. It is thus the symbol of the powerful, ruthless, deadly physical force, unsupported by any kind morality and devoid of any mercy, humanity, or humility. It is also a symbol of the cruel tyrants of the world who know nothing except perfect control and kill. The significance of the poem lies in its relation to the human world. By presenting the self-manifested will of the hawk, the poet allows us to condemn the individual tyrants of the world who are ruthless and cruel like the hawk. More than these, in the march of so-called civilization through scientific and technological know-how, knowledge and expertise, man has tried to hold creation in his grasp. The poet mocks this by implying that this is a thoroughly misguided pride for hubris of man. In this process, the civilized values of human life that could give it meaning have been forgotten. The man in the modern time is driven by mad impulse and unfulfilled obsession. Although the poem does not employ traditional meter or figure of speech, the very force of the direct expression makes the poem's ironic effect palpable. The economical, despairing nature of the language adds extra grace and force to the poem and creates a deeply powerful effect on the reader's conscience. Throwback. The poem is composed in the first person narrative, I, my, me, mine, and it represents the thoughts in a kind of internal monologue through the mind of the hawk or the poet, supposing that the words of the poem flow through the mind of the hawk. Hawk, a bird of prey, is a fierce, cruel, and arrogant creature. The poem gives us a vivid impression of the spirit or character of the hawk, of the particular manifestation of the life force that is seen in it. That's all in this week. Thank you very much. That's the end of the lesson. Goodbye, and talk to you with new lesson next week.